Welcome to Tech Down Over. We are here with Mark Bender, Geoff Blanchard. We are going to start in about a minute. In fact, let's just start now. We're ready to go.
Yes.
So here we go. We're going to start the show in 3, 2, and 1. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Rick Zanotti, and I'm joined today by our co-host, my good friend, Geoff Blanchard. He is coming to us from Melbourne, Australia. He's free today. He's British, so he's totally free of any other rule.
Well, no, it's got nothing to do with me, really.
That's true.
I'm sat here with envy, sitting here. It's at 39 degrees here on a Saturday morning.
Wow,
so
nice.
I'm just
hot.
dreaming of being in California.
Yeah, you're hot out there right now. He's talking, you're 39 centigrade.
No, I would just say I'm 39 Fahrenheit.
You're that cold over there? That is cold for Australia. Wow. Oh, that's right.
Well,
you're
that's
winter.
Not bad for winter, though. That's winter. It's winter, so that's not bad.
That's true. Even the kangaroos are cold today. That's
right. Jumping into the pouches, the joeys. Yeah.
Here we go. And we're back. You know, Geoff, you have cameras and you buy filters. You know, I've been a Tiffen customer for a long time, probably 17 years, maybe longer, maybe less. My dad, I think, used to buy Tiffen when I was growing up. I mean, they've been around for a long time, but he used to buy the filters on his old SLR cameras before digital. He never got into digital. But we've got with us today Mark Bender. He is the Western Sales Director or Regional Sales Director for Tiffen. And I've met Mark in person, and this guy has way too much fun at work. It's wrong. It's just wrong.
Great.
But here he is. Hey, Mark, how are you?
How are you?
I am doing great. And you were having a blast that day. You were showing off the Steadicam. This is with Sammy's camera, which is in L.A., and that's one of his territories. And it's the place I buy a lot of gear from. And you had a guy, I think you had somebody with you, and the guy's holding the Steadicam and jumping up, literally tucking his knees 5 times in a row. Boom, 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 boom. Not a movement on that thing. I'm looking at it going, wow. Yeah, that was I think that was the $10,000 big bang version. It did everything, but that was amazing.
Yeah, and and we do it without batteries, without motors. It's all American know-how and engineering.
Oh, so there was no motor on that.
No.
Interesting.
And,
wow.
It's our 41st anniversary of Steadicam.
Wow.
And also the 41st anniversary or 40th anniversary of Rocky, which launched the career, of course, Mr. Stallone and also Garrett Brown, the inventor of Steadicam.
Oh, interesting.
So that film was filmed, 80% of it was Steadicam. Including the iconic, running up the stairs that Stallone does with the victory dance. That is Garrett chasing Stallone up those stairs.
That's great. Yeah, I never knew that. That is cool.
There's a great, I'd like to recommend a great YouTube, if your viewers will go to YouTube and search for Garrett Brown Rocky. You'll see an interview that was done with Garrett about the whole process, and it is fascinating.
That's
absolutely
cool.
Fascinating.
That was a fun movie too.
Yes. Yeah.
I liked that. That was probably still the best Rocky out there.
I sort of agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed all of them, but that first
the
one
heart of that first one was
great.
Incredible.
You felt it. You really felt it. It was here's the loser who makes it.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was great. It was a good message, and Stallone played the part well. I met a guy years later who was actually a bodyguard. Well, he was actually a Mr. World, I think. He was from Mexico. I can't remember his name, but he was Stallone's trainer, the guy who got him buff after Rocky.
Wow.
It was interesting. He said he worked him to death.
Sure.
And Stallone looked good, and Carl Weathers worked with him, and these guys just all look great. And the second Rocky was my second favorite, I think, which was fun. Carl Weathers is cool. So.
But it's interesting with that, though, with Rocky, because you're saying how much you liked it. I didn't particularly like the movie at all when it first came out, but when I got later on into photography, I just liked it then because of just the way the filming. So I didn't really realise then that it was the introduction of Steadicam that probably got me to the different way of filming. Yeah. So It's really it's that something different, because I really enjoyed the film for the quality of it. I didn't really like it at first, but it pulled me around it later on. So.
And I thought they were doing something like, creating all sorts of rigs for this thing and pushing the camera along wires. I didn't realize that they had Steadicammed it.
Right. I mean, that it revolutionized. It was such an impact on the industry, and that was literally the very first Steadicam that Garrett made, basically in his garage.
That's cool.
And the rest is history.
That is
amazing.
Really cool. But
seriously, is Steadicam the brand name?
Yes, it is a copyrighted brand name. We have a saying here. There are many camera stabilizers, but there's only one Steadicam. Mm-hmm. And there is literally, legally and otherwise, there is only one Steadicam. The interesting thing is the Steadicam formula philosophy that Garrett evolved and developed was that his goal was that he wanted to create a camera support system that would absolutely immerse the audience in the room with the actors and move just like the human brain perceives movement. And he did it without a computer, without electronics. It was all about engineering and precision, machining, and being very patient in the evolution and getting that very natural, organic movement that directors crave. And it really does draw the audience in.
And not because you're here, but I used to have a glide cam. And I say used to because we sold it. It was not as easy to use. It was just weighing it. You had to get the exact right weight or your camera drifted. I mean, it was tricky. It was tricky. And
because we service the industry and time is so much money, quote unquote, we've tried to design all the products from our very first entry-level products all the way up to our state-of-the-art M1 Steadicam to be very efficient in time and setup. And people are amazed that it might take a half a day to set up an electronic computerized driven system, and ours, basically a trained operator, is ready to go in 5 minutes. It's amazing.
That's really good. And I'm still blown away by what you said, that there's absolutely no motors in that, because I was watching the guy, he's right next to me, jumping, doing, 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 doing. And I'm looking at the monitor, and it's perfect. Not even gravity's being moved. I was going,
I mean, wow. It is uncanny. It's uncanny how beautifully they are crafted.
Yeah, that is good engineering. That's great engineering, actually. So, and I love
USA engineering.
yeah, that's even better. Yeah. So that's really good. Now, Tiffen's also known for great camera filters, and you just came out with a new product. You want to talk a little bit about your cinema line?
Yes, well, of course, our Cinema 9 is not new. We're celebrating our 77 years in this year.
But the new big mama of lenses.
The new big mama of filters, yes.
Yeah.
For years, we were making, for the DSLR market, we were making something called a variable neutral density filter, which I'm sure most of your viewers are aware of. They give you from 2 to 8 stops of seamless neutral density, meaning you can make very subtle changes throughout that range, and you're not carrying around all these separate filters. At any rate, we got requests from directors of photography saying, I use this at home, I use it on vacation, why don't you make me a big one that I can use at work? And lo and behold, we now have the full-size motion picture size, 138 millimeter donut mounted. We call it the donut mounted, and we also make one in a tray that fits into the 4x5 matte boxes that everybody's familiar with.
Wow! How much do those weigh?
I would say about less than 8 ounces, probably 4 ounces.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. For something that size.
Yeah.
I mean, And then the tray mounted does one other thing. We include a removable second element, and what that enables us to do is when you flip the surface forward to back, not only is it a VND, but we create this very, very beautiful warm to cold effect filter, so that you can change from a warm to a cool tone and everything in between. It's rather extraordinary.
So you could actually go from an indoor location to an outdoor and kind of make it seamless.
Precisely.
Cool.
Precisely.
That's nice. That's pretty hard to do, actually.
Yeah. And these are capable of being motorized so that the director of photography can actually change the exposure wirelessly and not have to change his iris. Now, why is that important? Well, when you change your iris due to exposure, what happens is you get a change in depth of field, and you get something that we call bokeh, which is the appearance of the little out of focus highlights in the background. And by leaving the iris alone and then doing it with neutral density, you have this beautiful, seamless change in exposure. It's very stunning.
And one of the things a lot of people don't know, especially if they're not that good at photography or don't really understand what a neutral density does. You could shoot, let's say you have a lens that's an f1.2 lens, or you have a Voigtlander, which is like, 0.9 or 0.8.
Yep.
So you've got a lens that just eats light. But if you're in really bright sunlight, you have basically a white image. It's really bad because you have to stop it down just to absorb less light. But when you put these Tiffen neutral densities on, you're wide open. You're not losing any of that beautiful bokeh and everything else you can do with it, but you're also now stopping it down with the filter. You're wide open, and the shots are really ethereal. They're gorgeous.
Yes, and that's what these guys are constantly striving for.
Yeah, it's fun. And I have several of those Tiffen lenses, and they're not lenses, the neutral densities, and they're just great. They work beautifully.
We also, what's very popular now is, especially in the HDSLR, DSLR market, is a lot of people want to do the long, extremely long exposures of landscapes with water and clouds. And this allows you to leave your shutter open long enough so that you can get beautiful movement in being creative. And that's just exploded. I mean, everybody that shoots landscape now wants to be able to do that when the mood motivates them and moves them to do that.
So they can become an Ansel Adams type without having to need the big box and everything else.
Sure.
That's pretty cool.
Now, with your filters, everybody's going on these days about UV filters, whether to use them and whether not to use them. What's your feeling on that?
Well, I don't think it does much harm, although what camera manufacturers have told me is that their programs and their LUTs or LUTs and whatever profile they've determined is what we all want, they actually have some software that senses whether there is a UV coating in there, in the filter, and takes it out. So, okay, because they've put their own corrections in for UV. Okay, we could discuss IR, infrared. That's a different subject, but UV, it seems to be just get a very high quality clear glass if you want a protector. That seems to be the preferred. But to be honest with you, the UV is not going to harm anything. But the manufacturers tell me that we just wish everybody would stop being used to using UV and just get clear filters. So that's what they tell me. So whatever.
Yeah, and I suppose so is my feeling on it as well. Is if you do have one for protection, that's fine, but you've still got to replace it every so often, because that if you're doing it for protection, it's going to get scratched and damaged, and you're going to be shooting through that. So you've got to replace, if you're doing a lot, probably replace it every 12 to 18 months.
Right. I mean, we've come out with something which is rather interesting. We were making something that was military spec only, and now we can bring it out to everybody, and it addresses this abrasion problem that you just brought up. It's called HT. It's an HT series filter, and one of the specs among the color inertness and the transmission and non-reflectiveness of this coating was that it had to stand up to combat conditions. Yeah. Whoops. So we have that filter series now available to the public, and I really encourage everyone. I used to use some very high-cost, non-branded, non-Tiffen branded filters, and I literally put these on as a experiment, and the impression that I was given was I was using dirty filters before. Sorry, but that's what happened. So they are pricey, but again, they address this every 12 to 18 months. You should probably replace. These are really, really durable.
So does that stand for high transmission, the HT?
Yes, for high transmission, exactly.
That's pretty good. So
we throw a little titanium in there just to make it sexy.
Okay. Sounds good. That's interesting. So how much do those run usually?
Retail starts at about $50 and on up, so they're
not
cheap.
No, but it's
inexpensive.
not bad.
But when you consider what they're designed for, and that's your Canon L glass, your Nikon ED glass, when you consider the investment you're making in your lens and how beautiful these protective filters are, it really is worth it. The other thing you have to understand too is in our world at Tiffen, we have to make filters that fit in front of $100,000 lenses, and you can't know they're there.
Yeah.
Meaning we are not allowed to depreciate the performance of a $100,000 lens.
Sure.
So go figure what the public has available in all these choices. Tiffen is one of those really outstanding choices.
Yeah, I agree, because you actually hit everything from the bargain stuff all the way on up to super professional, and like you said, you have military grade things, you have probably custom development. Like I said, I'm a good fan of Tiffen. I think the products have always been good. Have never been let down by a product that you guys sell. So no complaints there.
So Mac, what would you say would be your biggest selling filter, or your best filter, best selling?
Our HT certainly has exploded recently, so that's the VND is absolutely, in numbers wise, is probably the best seller from a number wise standpoint. But on the motion picture side, the VND sizes that we make in motion picture size, we're selling every single one as fast as we make them. I'm constantly chasing the order flow. It's amazing. So it's very exciting to be in a sector that's really this exciting.
Do you guys make everything in the U.S.?
Yes, all of the filters are made in the U.S. in our factory in Hauppauge.
And the reason I asked, it's in Hauppauge, New York?
Hauppauge, yes.
That used to be IBM area.
Yes, absolutely.
I remember that.
Yes.
The only reason I asked is I know there's been so much damage because of the quakes in Japan that Sony, Nikon are really not shipping any cameras for like 3 or 4 months. They said they've been damaged. Haven't heard anything about Panasonic, though I think they've had some damage. Canon said they came out okay, but they got hit hard on some of those plants.
It impacted a lot of the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're recovered at this point, but you're absolutely right. When the earthquake hit, it was devastating.
Yeah, and they didn't. Obviously, you can't. Living in earthquake country ourselves, you just can't really prepare for it. No matter how much you try, when it hits, it hits.
Right.
And it was. You're right. It was a bad thing. And there were many companies, and some of the peripheral lens manufacturers, and they all had some of the same issues.
Yes.
So
no question about it. And these are people, in those factories, in the Canon, the Nikon, and whoever. These are people that made lenses their entire lives, and their skill levels and the love that they have for that is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So you're right. It was devastating at the time.
Yeah. So in this case, buying U.S. is not a bad thing.
Well, in this case, yeah.
But no, that's good, because I was wondering if you had any production issues because of those.
Not because of that. We're people who are in the industry. They need Tiffen like a public utility. Like plugging in the wall. They have to have Tiffen for the various looks and quality characteristics that we're famous for. So it didn't impact us that much. I think worldwide, however, we did benefit because of the short supply from that standpoint.
Okay.
And I as I say, the one of the things that you alluded to it in the beginning, I do have one of the best jobs on the planet. I get to participate in some very exciting things in how the artists, the technicians get to make beautiful pictures, and I get to have some little role in that. And It's very exciting.
You know, we have a video of. Shall we do the Goodfellas one?
Sure. I think your viewers will find this lovely. It's a good example of how the Steadicam puts the audience into the scene with the actors.
And here we go.
Larry McConkey is this fabulous Steadicam operator, one of the best in the world that's ever been. That's who shot this.
How long does it take for somebody to really get good like these guys are?
Well, to be on the level of a Larry McConkey, and of course there are others, that's a lifetime aspiration, just like to be a great violinist. But I would say to be a really industry professional, you're probably talking at least a year of hard work.
It's an art. It's really an art, knowing how to move and move with it.
Right. You'll notice that he's following the talent just as if he was walking with them.
Yeah.
And you're not, and yet you don't feel you don't see his footsteps.
No.
When we walk, we don't notice our footsteps, and yet if we were holding a camera to our chest, boy, we would see all the movement. So you can see how this beautifully accomplishes that, even as they're navigating through this, this kitchen and the hallways. And look at the choreography, by the way, how they've timed the actors and the extras, and going around corners. This isn't done, by the way, on one rehearsal. This takes a few attempts, and blocking, and a great director and a wonderful artist like Larry to accomplish this. You see that guy just walk right in front with
and it just feels like you're in the scene with them.
In the scene, exactly.
Yeah.
And again, no batteries, no motors, no computer. The talent of the operator, and he can really operate like a storyteller.
Which Steadicam is he using here?
I'll have to look that up. That's a good question. I should know that. I don't know which model this was.
I imagine it's one of the higher end ones.
Notice how he's changed the point of view. He's following the guy with the table right now, and that table is being set up for the leads, and he's setting it down. Again, this is part of the story. Why? Because we're implying that this guy is really one of the mob bosses, or very up in the mob, and whatever he wants, he gets even before he thinks of it to ask. So, what a great little vignette to add to the story here, and alluding to the audience, hey, this guy is somebody. He is a good fella. Yeah. Notice points to that actor pointed to some other actors. Very beautifully looks over, comes back, moves in. We call that a push-in, where he got into this beautiful two-shot, framed the subject up beautifully. Some dialogue.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Copacabana is proud to present the king of the one-liners, Henny Youngman.
And then watch what happened. Push back, go back, pan over, and there's Henny Youngman doing a shtick. Okay, so you can see how beautifully it helps enrich the story and really immerses the audience. Again, allowing for a high level of artistry and really enriching the story.
It's just amazing how clean something like that is, and how really, like you said, it's seamless into the whole story. It's not obtrusive, even for the actors, because he kind of shadows the actors.
Yes, most definitely.
I was watching that thinking, I wonder if really part of the skill set is knowing how to step at the same exact time they step. And
this is, go ahead, Jeff.
And it is part of that, isn't it? Just you're mimicking movements almost.
Oh, and this is one of those exciting things, the beautiful things about being a professional camera operator, period, in the motion picture business, in the documentary business. You are reacting to what they call the narrative. You're following the narrative. You're reacting to the performances of the actor, and the organic quality and the instant response of a Steadicam, and that operator interaction just can't be replaced at this point in time with motors and electronics. It's fascinating. Yeah. Absolutely fascinating.
And there's no noise. There's nothing interfering with what they're doing.
And no battery. The only batteries that go dead are on the camera.
The camera.
Oops.
That's one of the problems with all of the DSLRs and pretty much everything nowadays. You don't get any warning usually when sometimes they'll blink a little bit, and they usually, it's a very little bit. It's like, dunk, 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 you're dead. And they're not always accurate on exactly where you are in that battery. We've had that. Unless you're plugged in, which life is good then, you're not always plugged in.
Sure.
So that's
but it always goes to show you can have a great steady performance with the camera, but it's always the operator as well. How do they put it into practice?
Absolutely.
Because you can have the greatest shot, but if the way that fella just moves into the scene as well, it just makes a big difference. It's not just the Steadicam that does it; it's his skill. So I do appreciate the hard work that they put into it.
We conduct Steadicam workshops, certificated Steadicam workshops all over the world, and we're the only manufacturer that does that. And one of the big areas of study, or in the curriculum, is that it's Steadicam as a story pushing tool, and it's not all about fancy moves. It's actually about immersing easy for you to say, the audience without them even knowing. And that's the art, is to be invisible, not to show off with fancy moves and where the audience goes, oh, that was really a cool move. No, that's exactly what you don't
want. And in the Goodfellas thing, all of a sudden you're in a scene.
Yes.
You're just in there.
You're just there.
And exactly. What I was thinking when watching it was, I don't think of it as the camera's moving. I kind of feel like I'm moving.
Yes.
And that's a really interesting effect.
That's Rick. That is beautifully put. Excellent. I'm gonna quote you on that.
Okay, but that's how it felt. I was going, that's really seamless. Seamless. Yes. It was just cool.
Absolutely true.
Remember what Brian De Palma used to do? He had a different approach. It was all the circle around the room. The room was spinning. Everything was spinning. That's an interesting effect too, because you're looking like you're in there looking at everything. But this is much more, like you said, immersive. It just brings you into it, and before you know you're in it, you're in it.
Yes.
I love that. It's just good. And by no means are we Steadicam or any...
Let's back up just a little bit. I want to compliment all the wonderful camera operators that are out there and the directors that are out there, that, whatever tool it is, whether it's a dolly, whether it's handheld, shoulder mount, whatever that is, the sensitivity of those artists, I just applaud, because they really know how to use the various techniques. And Steadicam is just one of many techniques, but it is an important one.
Now, is there any difference in running a Steadicam with a DSLR versus a camcorder, which is a little more stable in and of itself? Any nuances to that for the people out there?
No, once you're balanced on a Steadicam, it's pretty straightforward. There are some HDSLRs which were never designed to have the camera body move a lot. So there is an artifact a lot of people call jello shutter that you have to deal with. You have to make sure that the shutter speeds are slow enough so that doesn't happen. But other than the balance per se, the Steadicam can pretty well cope with that, with the rest of it.
Okay. That's very interesting. Now we have another video too. This is, what's this one? Greenleaf Sizzle.
Oh, this is, if we could just hold off before we run it. About 4 or 5 months ago, I got a panic call on a Monday morning from a wonderful friend of mine, Francis Kinney, who's an ASC director of photography. And he was shooting a new television series for Oprah in Atlanta. And we had some talent skin tone issues and skin texture issues. And it was pretty critical we solved them. And here I am sitting in my house. This was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm just almost putting the keys in the car and in the ignition. And Francis calls me. I stopped dead in my tracks, and we had this 40-minute conversation about the problems he was having. And I said, Francis, let me try a few things. I'll try to pull some old things out of the closet that Mr. Nat Tiffen had come out with, believe it or not, in the 60s. And these were special skin tone enhancers for other than Caucasian. They were for other ethnic groups. And nobody wanted them in the 60s. Why would we want that? Was what he was told. Well, I remember seeing this in an old notebook and seen the formula and whatnot. So I pleaded with the factory. We got it done on, that was on a Monday. We shipped these new filters, and I had to just kind of do a kind of a shotgun approach and give him several different variations because it was going to be a guess. We airshipped them on a Thursday afternoon to Atlanta. And then if someone can bring up the first JPEG, not the TIFF, but the JPEG, I want to show you what the first shot was that was shot Friday morning that Francis emailed me immediately. Can we bring that up? Right. This is a beautiful romantic scene. Francis was using a red camera with Leica Summilux lenses, very, very sharp.
Yep.
There were a lot of things we had to do, that he had to deal with in lending itself to the look of the show. It saved a couple of actors' careers. Oprah was just ecstatic. She was just ecstatic. She wrote Francis some personal notes, and in the notes she says, "Francis, I love the way these new Tiffen filters enhance and capture the cafe au lait, the mocha, and espresso skin tones of my cast."
Yeah.
And I'm reading this back to Stephen Tiffen, Nat's son, who's now, Stephen is our president and CEO, and he starts to giggle and he says, "Oprah just gave us the names for the new filters."
That's funny.
So anyway, it was very successful. 2 weeks later, Oprah comes in to do her episode, because she's actually in the TV series. She doesn't do every episode, but she comes in. And if we could bring up the number 2 JPEG. This is Oprah on set. It's a very cold morning in Atlanta. Every time the actors speak, their breath frosts up. It's beautiful. Francis asks Oprah, "Could I try another version of those new filters on you? I think you'd like them. Is that okay?" She says, "Sure, Francis. Absolutely. Go ahead." So they do the scene. Francis turns the monitor around so she can see it. They play it back for her. Her mouth drops open. She leans over the monitor, gets in Francis's face, and says, "Francis, I think I'm going to marry you." And Francis tells me, "Bender, for 10 seconds I fantasized on how much my life was about to change." But anyway, a little piece of glass.
So is it like a smoothing filter? It's sort of smooths, right?
Right. We add a little color. It's what we did is we took one of our pearlescents, which is a new filter. It's about a year old. It's called a particulate diffusion filter, and it has this beautiful, subtle, romantic touch.
Interesting.
That is absolutely extraordinary with today's cameras. Just beautiful.
And what
we added this color for the specifics that they needed.
And what a lot of people don't realize is that, especially when dealing with black skins, there is in some people, a certain blotchiness of color.
Right.
That the tones change a bit, and it doesn't always look good if you're overlit or if you're underlit.
And over sharp. As these new formats and new lenses are. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I've done some video teaching in the past, and I always had, or many times I had somebody who was an assistant who happened to be black, and it was a good friend of mine, and she's very, very dark. I'm pretty light. So I tell the class, light us together.
Interesting.
It's a tough one.
Yes.
And you have one camera and one light. What are you going to do? And it was good. It was a great exercise. It made them think. It made them be creative. But then also I said, now light her, and what do you see? And there were differences in gradation. This is Colleen, Geoff.
Oh, yes.
And there were differences in some of the gradation in the skin. So you've got to get the lighting correct. You've got to make sure that, and if we didn't have those filters, that would have solved it easily.
Well,
put the filter on.
An artist like Francis Kenny solves it, please.
Yeah.
But just a little piece of glass can make such an impact on a story.
It's amazing. But
it goes on and on. I won't bore you with all that.
Let's show the video while we're talking.
Oh, great. Yeah, let's do that. We've one pictures with us on. This is the actual trailer, and we're now licensed by Lionsgate to show the footage. It's a beautiful, beautiful series, beautifully shot by Francis. Great tonality. Great cast. Cast is absolutely extraordinary.
The shots look really good. You're right. Are they using that filter in these shots?
Almost all the time.
Almost all the time, yeah.
There's a couple of different variations we made, and they use the different variations according to what the story and the
You're
tone.
right. I was looking at the tones on some of them. They look great.
Just gorgeous. Yeah, just magnificent. And Francis is such a giving artist. He actually shared his techniques and his experiences at the last NAB in our booth with everybody.
Okay.
For the public, and it was so educational. And again, this is why I'm showing this, because people don't understand the level of control you now have, and the fact you can get it done, and you're not sweating hours later in post-production trying to figure this out. It was done, delivered, ready for post-production, so they could go on and do their editing and whatever they have to do, but they didn't have to mess with this problem, which was very complicated.
And yet the other thing I really like about what I'm seeing is the beautiful lighting they did on that.
Oh, again, you have an artist like Francis.
Was he the lighting director on that?
Well, he had his lighting people follow.
It looked great.
Together with the director. This is what I mean by a master artist, and an artist that acknowledges the collaborative nature of making a motion picture, of making a television series, of making a documentary. We live in, we all here work in a very collaborative business, and that's also one of the things I enjoy about it so much.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very strange with shows like that. I find myself watching them, and then I watch them again with the sound turned down and just appreciate the quality of what they've done. Because when you're watching the show, it seems to pass you by. You get caught up in the story, and you don't realize the tremendous work that all these people do on these shows. Yes,
Jeff, that's a very good point. Of course, they're wonderful entertainment, and you do get wrapped up in the story, of course, and that's to the credit of the visual artists they make the rest seem invisible. But you're right. Sometimes it's great just to turn the sound off and just watch the visual messaging and the visual artistry that's taking place. What I recommend to students too is please go, whether it's Turner Classic Movies or however you can download some of the older movies, and see the lighting, see the blocking, see, we forget that a lot of the studios used to create pools of light that the talent would walk into to show off the talent, especially the young new movie stars, etc. It's extraordinary what these masters did, and nobody's conscious of it. It's magnificent.
Yeah, that's true. I still love the old classics from the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s. They do amazing things with not that much.
Right.
We was just talking about lighting. I see you do the Lowell Blender LED kit. That's been one of my favorite ones.
Yes, that's a wonderful, strong seller and quite a tool. One of the reasons is, unlike a lot of bicolor LEDs, these actually have two independently controlled banks of daylight and tungsten. So you're not giving up one for the other. You can actually mix and match very readily, and that's what it was designed for. Was the location documentary maker, location filmmaker that goes into an office, it goes into an auditorium, goes into someone's home, and there's a mismatch of light all over the place. You got daylight, you got tungsten, you got a fluorescent desk lamp, whatever it is, and you can just very quickly and visually adjust the back of the light, and does what you need it to do.
Well, when I met you, that's what I was buying at Sammy's that day. I bought the low blenders, and
awesome.
They're beautiful. And we used them on one particular shoot where we had to go into, and this was a shoot with GE Corporation, we had to go into an office and film a guy. I thought we were going to film all over the building. Nope, never left that office. And it had a very particular lighting. It was daylight balance, but it had another tonality to it because of I've never seen lighting that gorgeous, actually, inside of an office. And we got the blenders to light him without changing the lighting in the room. And that was so cool because
that's nice.
We were able to actually match it. We just did a couple of tweaks on knobs, and we only used 2 of the 3 lights because he was pretty well lit from the top. And so we put one behind him as kind of a hair light, and we put one in front as his key light. We didn't really have a fill light because it was more of a fill light. It was kind of a fill and key light in one. But it lit him almost perfectly without adding much to it other than he was totally clear.
Interesting.
And we tweaked. It was a little bit blue, was a little bit yellowish, and just got it. And within about 10 minutes, we had perfect lighting on them.
Yeah, wonderful. And we also, in that vein, we came out with something called the GL1, which we all know, well, we may not all know. There's a light that made Hollywood lighting famous called the Hollywood Fresnel, okay, for lack of a better word. And it's a beautiful beauty light. It's not overly soft so that you have depth to it. And yet your skin tones and your eyes look beautiful, and it's one of the major lights that's used in Hollywood today still. And we came out with a little handheld version called the GL1. And not only is it handheld, it's battery operated. It has a dimmer on it, and it's focusable. It zooms. And the still photographers and video photographers absolutely love this. We also came out with a stand-mounted unit called the Pro LED. That, again, is a miniature. They're about 3 inches or so in diameter, but they're extraordinary. And I recommend the viewers go to our website and read about them. You'll learn a lot. Not sure I'd like you to buy one, but that's not the issue. Just reading about them is going to teach you a lot about lighting and extend your creativity.
Yeah.
It's we forgot about the Hollywood Fresnel, with LEDs, and now we have an LED-powered Hollywood Fresnel, which are great. Absolutely wonderful.
I need to take a look at those. I remember reading about it, and then it kind of slipped my memory. Now that you said that, I go, I got to look at those. Those look good.
Yeah, they're lovely, lovely light. Very versatile.
Yeah, and the blenders, beautiful. Again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think they were $1,500 for 3. I think it was $1,500 for 3.
Right. That's about, yeah.
But
you got a good deal.
Oh, was it a good deal? And but I'll tell you, it comes with its own stands. It comes with its own power cord. Everything is there. And thank you. You put power cords that are more than 3 feet long. They're like 6, 8 feet long. They're
We've
great.
been doing this a while.
I know. And the whole thing weighs what, 10, 15 pounds, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe, and you can carry it anywhere. They're beautiful. I love the compactness of it. We've got other lights like Kinoflows, and you're carrying a lot of light, and it could break on you, and this and that. Here you got 3 full lights that are blinding if you put them up high. So don't think they're small. They're only about about 8 inches by 4 or 5. It's not that big.
Right.
And if you put those up high, you're just like, I can't see. They're really strong, and yet they can be soft, and you've got the filters on it, and
that you can drop in the front.
Yeah, I really enjoy them. They're one of the better sets we've gotten.
And they're very strong. The other thing that people don't realize, we've designed it to be AC/DC, so that you can run them off camcorder batteries, as an example, any 12-volt source, actually. And we have little sleds. They call them sleds, like for Sony, for Canon, for Panasonic, whatever. That just you slide your little battery and plug it in the back, and you're off the grid, so to speak. Yeah. So they're great that way.
No, they were great. I really enjoyed them. That was another good purchase. So like I said, I haven't gone wrong with you guys. So this is good. One of these I'm going to get.
That's our aim.
That's the thing with most of the things I see that you do sell. Other than a lot of equipment, a lot of your stuff you can buy it, and it does you from camera to camera. I'll buy a camera today, but probably in 2 or 3 years I'll need something new, but the lighting kit, as long as it's still working, it will do for a number of different cameras. Same thing with the filters and lenses.
Exactly. I mean,
good investment.
It is absolutely true when it comes to technology proof. Where and I know, we all know here that the camera manufacturers, God bless them, every 30 seconds they have a new model. The nice thing is, being in the support and camera accessory business, these elements stay useful for generations, let alone decades, let alone years, let alone months, like the cameras change models. So it's, storytelling is storytelling, and fortunately our products lend themselves and support and enrich storytelling. So I'm very blessed to be in the segment that I'm in.
Yeah, and you have too much fun in your job. That's just too much.
Sounds like it.
We won't tell anybody. Well, Mark, this is fun. I'm glad you could make it on today. You've shared a ton of stuff with us and some really good advice, and And just, if you haven't bought Tiffen products, what are you waiting for? They're really good products.
Thank
He's
you.
not paying us for this. We actually do use the products, so we're fans. And how can people get a hold of you if they need anything or if they want to find out more about your
Well,
product?
certainly, I'm very pleased to give your viewers my email address, if that's allowed.
It is.
Okay, it's mbender, mbender, at Tiffen, Tiffen.com. And any assistance I can give, that I can humbly extend to your audience, please ask me. I do this 24/7. When you're in the industry, they expect you to pick up the message and return and solve the problems. So please, I hope the audience will feel free. Any concern they have, any inquiry, I'm doing a shot, I have a question. Don't be embarrassed about how basic the question is, and if I don't know the answer to an advanced question, I promise you I will find you the answer.
And he does that, by the way. I was at Sammy's and people were coming up to him, how do I do this? Right there, tech support.
I just want to mention too, Francis Kenny happens to be, again, an ASC, American Society of Cinematographer, and that is one very giving organization. I'd suggest to your viewers if they can go to the ASC website, there's a plethora of wonderful information there, and you can actually become a friend of the ASC, and that is a wonderful source of information for filmmakers and anybody that's interested in storytelling visually. I happen to be an associate member of the ASC and was invited to join in 2008. And it's quite an honor, and I live up to that, try to live up to that, attempt to live up to that every day that I'm out.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you do a great job.
Thank you.
Well, Mark,
Thank
a
you.
pleasure having you here, Jeff, as always. And next week we've got Sigma on, so we're going to talk lenses,
Awesome.
and then we can
Awesome.
bring up the Tiffen covers for
But
those.
it'd be great to have Mark back because we've only touched on really two product lines, haven't we? The filters and a small part of the light one, the Steadicam, but there's so many other Tiffen areas
Sure.
I'd be interested to learn about as well.
Yeah, you let us know. You want to come back? Just let us know when, and we'll have you
Awesome,
on.
guys. I'm honored. I'm honored to be asked.
Great. And for all you people watching, please subscribe. Let us know what you think. And we will put Mark's information and stuff on Tiffen in the show notes, so you'll have access to that. Well, have a good one, everyone, and we'll see you next week on Tech Down Over. Take care, everyone.
Bye
Bye-bye.
for now.
Bye-bye.